worked, but I didn't, and I was wrong. So I, oh, hello everybody. How you doing? Uh, I think we're definitely live now. Okay.
Perfect.
Oh boy. Oh. Okay. Anyway, so how are you doing, Exit?
I am excellent. Got all the chores done. None of the animals died. Life's pretty good today.
Nice. Yeah. I was gonna say speaking of death, and then go into that thing, but I don't actually want to talk about that. It's a little horrifying. But the people who know, and the people who don't know don't want to know. So
True story.
it's the 4th of July. It's the 4th of July special. And for our special, we had Boom Jesus. Uh, he made an appearance. Uh, and
I just want to know if that's a resurrection or that's before the resurrection.
this
Like
is
which one?
just, I don't know. He's like a phoenix, like literally, like almost literally. Like he's made of fire. Does that count as literally?
So then it has to be the resurrection, right?
Maybe he just, it's just a manifestation of power. And it's not really
Ooh,
either. It's just
I like it.
his power is right there.
This
That's
is
what his
what your
power looks
viewers
like.
think are. They come to hear us talk about the resurrection of Jesus.
Well, it's not necessarily Jesus Christ, but it is Boom Jesus, which is perhaps a completely unrelated person. He just might be the god of boom.
Valid point.
I was going to send out a tweet, but I got lost. Okay, here. Okay, so I'm gonna send out a tweet now. Okay, there we go. So that was the intro, everybody. That was the intro. Talked about Boom Jesus. We didn't talk about the meat because we don't need to. Uh,
Mm-mm.
so uh, how, how's everything going? Okay, moving on. I don't know if I should just jump into the news or like wait a minute for people to join. I never really know how to start. It does
Always save
parallel
them for
bourbon.
it. They can always come back to it.
Yeah, they can. They can. Uh, I do. I think the stream does pair well with bourbon. I agree. So, getting to the news, there's like almost no news up here. Uh, Russia is attacking the south of Novoselivsk or Novoselivsky, whatever. I never know how to pronounce the e at the end of a word. I really should learn how to say that. I always just say Novoselivsky, Novoselivska, Novoselivska. That's what I'm going with. Anyway, so they attacked the south of it, which I believe is right here, because Ukraine came up and captured this position at some point. I don't actually know when. I noticed it on the 22nd, which was what, like 2 weeks ago. I noticed it then, and ever since then, Russia's been rather upset. They've been trying to counterattack it back, and I don't think they've succeeded. So there's some fighting going on south of Novoselivsky. And there's also some fighting going on west of Novovodiana. They're also using airstrikes. Um, I don't actually know where this fighting is. I just kind of assume it's here because this seems like a place to fight over. I just kind of marked it arbitrarily. I don't actually know. I just know it's west of this town, but I mean, there's a lot west of this town, so I don't actually
It's
know.
got to be the trees. They always aim for the damn trees.
Yeah. I just marked here because it's like a natural fording point, and there's a road, and
Mm.
fords and roads seem to be something worthy of fighting over. Because otherwise, the front line is this river. It's the Jerabets River. So they're fighting over this stretch of river somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where. Just know it's west of this town. And otherwise, there's no news other than there's airstrikes involved. Um, Russia is attacking west from Chervono-Propivka, specifically along this tree line where they had a bad day. The video came out yesterday, but I don't know when it actually happened. But they had a bad day. I have a a still image from it. It was approximately right here where they lost three tanks, I believe. I think they're all T-80 BVs, but I'm not entirely sure. And they lost this vehicle, which I think is a BTR-80, but it might be a BMP or a BMD. I honestly can't, there's so few pixels, I can't really tell what's going on. But they lost three tanks and an armored personnel carrier in a single attack, which is kind of a disaster. But anyways, so that went on there. There's also fighting going on south of Dubrova. There was some fighting going on over here, which was kind of amusing that the Russians were using this as a front line position, considering they claim to have moved much further west and much further south. They say, like, if you look at the Russians, they say they're over here. I basically don't update my map here ever because I don't know how to update a forest. So this is, I just kind of don't change it. It's just been like this for a long time. So, but they claim they were over here, but they're using this exact location as a frontline position, which is kind of amusing to me. There's also some fighting going on in this general area of Torska. But overall, there's not terribly much news coming out of here. It's mostly small positional fighting, nothing super serious. The more serious combat, not recently, but generally speaking, the more serious combat is in Belorivka. But there hasn't really been any reports of fighting here over the past few days. But the real threat is Russia pushing down the Seversky Donetsk River, kind of over to this position, where my mouse is now, across from Serebrenka, where if they take all of these positions, they could cut off Bilohorivka with fire by firing across the river, and Ukraine would be forced to abandon Bilohorivka. So that is a worry that Ukraine has, but so far Russia has not been able to do this. They've been kind of stuck in this general location. I don't really update the map here, but there was fighting like right here, where Ukraine held this position, and that was a while ago. The reason I don't really update the forest is because it can change so quickly. Like, the front
Well, if you have
line,
that much cover to run through, like it's got to be way easier to just operate in general,
yeah.
right?
Well, it's harder. It's really hard. I think it's not easier. It's harder. So
I guess that
it's
depends
hard
where
because it's
you
easier to
are.
defend. So it's easier to defend. That's the issue for both sides. So
Mhm.
it's very difficult to attack. But the things can change so quickly. Where I mean, we heard the story from Constantine of Russia attacked a Ukrainian position. They thought they captured it, except Ukraine had like one guy left, and he defended the position for hours by himself until the Ukrainians counterattack and took the position back. And he was just kind of like, "You guys finally showed up." But anyways, he basically he's like legitimately heroic behavior. He basically held a trench by himself for hours. It's incredible. I don't know what medal you get for that, but it should be a really nice one. Uh, I don't know. I actually don't know what Ukrainian medals are. I know they have like courage and like hero of Ukraine and whatever. I think he should get whatever the biggest one is.
That was a crazy story that he had.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I don't really change the map here because it's like impossible to actually know what's going on in the forest. Anyways, so the Belhorivka position, I just said there's really not much happening. Russia has done a few attacks along this vector here towards Ivano-Dorivka. And these have been catastrophically bad for Russia. They have lost a ton of tanks and armored vehicles in these attacks, including there's one tank over here that exploded, and it wasn't the only one in this position. There was also so this was a BTR 80 exploded and a T80 BV exploded right there. And they didn't even get into position to attack. They're because like you have to realize they drive up like this and then they drive down this tree line all the way to the end, and then they kind of go like this and try to cross the field. So they didn't even get to the field. They blew up all the way back there. So this whole
Range that
attack
could
is not good. It's not a good place for Russia.
what could have hit them? Like what has the range to hit them from?
Artillery. I think it was artillery. They were getting hit by artillery. This would also be probably in tank range, I imagine, and maybe ATGM. I don't actually know how far this is. Let's draw a 1 kilometer circle. Okay, so let's draw
Seems so big when we're looking at it like
5
this.
kilometer circle. Okay, so it's about 5 kilometers from the front line. So that's out of ATGM range. This would be artillery, basically. Yeah. But anyways, so that's kind of that. I don't really have anything else to say about this. They've been attacking Vasily too. I believe they're trying to move from kind of this pathetic little balding tree line to this more heroically bushy tree line. Although, to be honest, this tree line doesn't exist anymore because it's been shelled into another realm. So anyway, I believe that they're trying to attack along this vector, but this it's not going well for them. Also, this tree line no longer exists because it's been shelled out of this world that we live in, so it's in a different one now. So and in Rostolivka, wait, I'm confused. This is apparently okay. Well, that's an error. Let's There's an error I need to fix. I didn't even notice this error existed. Anyways, so Ukraine controls up to here. I need to fix that. They oh, I remember. I was probably just being overly conservative, like obnoxiously conservative, because Ukraine almost certainly controls this position. I can't remember the name of this position now. This position has a name, and I was told the name, but I forgot it. But anyways, they almost certainly control this position. They moved up this forest line, and they probably like almost certainly like 95% control this forest strip and that forest strip, and right here, and maybe even further south. So that is something that Ukraine is doing. Russia has tried to counterattack a bunch of times, and none of them worked out. So yeah, kind of moving on down. I'm kind of burning through this northern news because it's frankly not super interesting. But moving down this M3 highway, I think is what it's called, or the E40, which I think are the same highway. I'm not expert on highways, but I think they're the same highway. But Ukraine is moving down this highway. They've I believe they've almost certainly reached this edge of this forest. Now there was a tank, a video of a tank. It was a T-62M, and it was a Russian tank. And there's a video of it where it kind of started around here and was going down this road as fast as he possibly could. And somewhere around here, he realized that there was some mines in front of him. So he swerved left and then swerved right and hit like 5 mines. I've never seen a tank hit so many mines. It's like he tried to hit as many as possible, but he hit like 5 mines all at once. It was pretty impressive. But that happened roughly around here. That was a viral video, which is why I'm bringing it up. In case I'm sure most of the viewers have seen this particular tank hit all those mines, but it was right there. And Ukraine has since pushed through here and taken at least this part of the forest. I also believe they're likely in this kind of middle of this forest, and this edge, like this kind of over here, where my mouse is now, is under Russian control. So so Ukraine is probably around here, and they're pushing, east basically. Russia tried to counterattack, didn't go so well. There's also some evidence that there's pretty heavy fighting going on in this little tiny forest right here. I don't even know if this is a forest, this little kind of clump of trees, but there's signs of pretty heavy fighting here as well. And I don't know if who's there at the moment, but someone is, and they're not having a good day. Um, uh, Russia is also pushing west from Dubovo-Vasilivka towards Orakhovo-Vasilivka, but that's not super interesting. Um, so that's kind of all the boring news out of the way. We're just gonna pour through it or whatever. So, anyways, in Berhivka, uh, so the latest news on Berhivka is that Ukraine is kind of more or less stuck here. Not stuck in the sense that they can't move, but stuck in the sense that they can't move quickly. And the reason why is because Russia keeps reinforcing Berhivka. And like we looked at last time on Friday, Berhivka is on a hill. So the Russians have all of the high ground, and Ukraine is on the low ground, and you can see that the height difference. This is exaggerated 300%, but the height difference is pretty significant, and the on this particular hill, there's this natural tree line which offers a pretty good fighting position for the Russians. So uh, this is kind of why it's going pretty slowly, I believe. I believe this hill is why, because Russia can put a lot of resources on this side of the hill where they're relatively safe, and then on top of the hill they have an advantage in fighting over the Ukrainians. And you have to keep in mind that most of the forests on the Ukrainian side, they no longer exist. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at this. The Russian side, these little forest strips, they still exist, and the Ukrainian side are bare and naked. So that's kind of an issue that Ukraine is dealing with at the moment. Now, there was a point where I thought Ukraine was likely in this forest strip up to this point here. And the reason I thought that was because these forest strips were completely unharmed. Well, since then, all of these forest strips are they've been evaporated. Um,
And all the water's gone too, right?
yes, this water is gone as well. So, but yeah, all of these trees are completely demolished by artillery. So so yeah, Ukraine's kind of in a position where moving is difficult and dangerous, and that's why it's kind of going slowly, more or less. But at the same time, they appear to have very high morale, and the reason I say that is because um, Ukraine is more or less declaring that if Russia doesn't flee soon, they'll regret it. Now, that seems like propaganda to me, but at least they have high morale. You know what I'm talking about?
Totally.
uh,
Make it till you make it.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, really the issue here for Russia is that Ukraine is advancing down the highway. Um, they're advancing down this highway, and if you look at it, there is the peak of this highway. So there's this little bump here that Ukraine is kind of up to. They're kind of fighting over this little bump, and then there's a little stretch of highway, and here, this position right here is like, well, I guess this line here. Anyway, this is the highest point for a while. So in every direction, this is kind of the highest point. And the Russians fear that if Ukraine can get to this position, which is the highest point right there. If Ukraine can get here, they will have complete dominance over basically everything in this area. Berhivka would be in a lot of trouble. Dubovo Vasilivka would be untenable. They would have to withdraw. They'd probably have to withdraw from both of these towns. If Ukraine got to this position, they would have to withdraw very likely from both, especially Dubovo Vasilivka, because they would be surrounded basically with the only road in under fire control. It would be really bad. They would have to abandon it basically immediately. And Berhivka would also be basically untenable. They would have to fall back all the way to Paraskovivka. So that is what Ukraine is threatening now. So they kind of have moved up into this position near Berhivka, where they're forcing Russia to defend here. Meanwhile, they're pushing down this highway. And if they move just this much further, which is how far is this? Like 4 kilometers. If they move about 4 kilometers further down this highway, and they seem to be moving a few hundred kilometers like at a time, every 2 or 3 days they move like a few hundred kilometers. So it will not take Ukraine very long to get to this position. If they continue at this pace, and then Russia would have to basically lose everything around it, and they would probably lose the positions north of it as well. They'd basically have to fall back to Perskovivka and Blahodany, which Russia does not look forward to. So the threat in Berhivka is not necessarily from the forces fighting Berhivka, it's more these forces to the north that are marching south.
Huh. Um, so the Russians, so the little strip of like green and the low area that's just to the left of your cursor right now.
Yeah, like this
Yeah.
area.
Yeah. So there, that is Russian controlled though right now?
Um,
Or is
this
there any trees left
this
or
this
is
part
it?
is Russian controlled,
Yeah.
but this one isn't. So this is kind of a
Okay.
like the area in between. Like here is all like a gray area.
Yeah.
This because Russia, what Russia did is they have a trench system. They have a trench system that goes from about here, and it kind of winds its way across like that.
Hmm.
And they've been defending this trench system. This key part of the trench right here, I believe Russia lost it. I don't think they control this trench anymore. You can't see it on the map, but there is a trench here. It's just this Google image is too old to see it, but it is there. Trust me. This trench, it basically is on the high ground. If you look at it in 3D, the trench is
Yeah.
like on the top. So I believe they lost to this part, and Ukraine is pushing up this tree line. They may actually control this position already. This low ground is more or less irrelevant. It doesn't really matter so much.
Got
But yeah, this trench system is more the vital thing. So yeah, that's kind of the situation there. So yeah, it's always the high ground it matters, especially in this sort of position where it's the low ground. It's so steep, and like you wouldn't want to walk there, to be honest. Like you would risk like hurting your ankle. Like that's the sort of ground we're talking about. Uh, so yeah, uh,
cool. Thank you.
did I say a few hundred kilometers? Yeah, a few hundred meters at a time. Sorry,
I think you said meters.
whatever. Anyways, moving down to Bakhmut, I labeled this area here, this forest strip, as Ukrainian controlled, for two reasons. First, we have video of Ukraine fighting here, so we know Ukraine is there. But the question was, are they there permanently, or are they like scouting, or what? So I I kept it a gray area after I saw that video. But then I saw on the satellite imagery that this forest has been basically deleted. Um, and it's continuing to get heavily shelled, which made me think that it is actually Ukrainian controlled. So the combination of the video footage of Ukrainian forces here, in addition to the satellite imagery depicting heavy shelling, like not moderate, very heavy shelling. These two things combined made me mark this as Ukrainian controlled. Now this is very close to Bakhmut. This is about what 300 meters from these tall buildings, or 300, 400 meters from these taller buildings. I'm not really counting these small ones, but these taller buildings, it's about, I guess, 400 meters. So, I mean, you can easily sprint that far if you wanted to, you know. So this is getting really close to Bakhmut. Um,
Do we know if all that territory in between is mined? Like, I just presume it's all mined, but I don't know the answer to that.
I would assume so. I don't actually know. I just assume everything's mined. Uh, but yeah, this area was never really Russian controlled, so I'm not really sure. Because Ukraine basically went from controlling this part of Bakhmut to falling back to this road here, and
Mm.
Russia never advanced really. They may have like attacked, but they never like controlled any of this. They were basically kind of stayed over here. So this was really a gray area that neither side really could do anything, and now Ukraine has retaken part of it. So I don't think Russia was ever even really there to begin with. So I'm not really sure. Um, Now getting down to this just south of Bakhmut, this is getting ridiculously heavily shelled. Basically, this whole forested area has been erased from heavy shelling. Now, the reason I talk about heavy shelling is mostly because the satellite resolution that I have access to, you can only really see moderate to heavy shelling. Light shelling is basically invisible, and heavy and moderate shelling. Moderate shelling, you might be able to see it, and you might not be. And heavy shelling, you can definitely see it. So that's why I talk about heavy shelling. Otherwise, there's like basically no information about what's going on, because there's like very few videos, and no one's really talking on either side. So basically, everything is coming from satellite imagery, basically. So this whole area is deleted from heavy shelling. The whole forest is basically gone at this point. So is Ukraine doesn't really have the artillery ammo to do this scale of damage, and that's why heavy shelling of this magnitude is super interesting, because it almost guarantees that Ukraine is in that position, because Ukraine just simply doesn't have the ammo to erase a forest. You know, they could do it, but at the expense of like everything else. Uh,
Well, and is it like a good strategic move to do something like that for Ukraine?
Not likely. Maybe sometimes, but not regularly. No, just deleting a forest. And if you think of like how many forests have I talked about deleting so far? Like, there's a
Right.
lot of forests that are just getting absolutely shredded to nothing. I mean, we're talking about it's being shredded down to like a pile of mud, is what we're talking
Mhm.
about. Um, so, yeah, anyway, that's what's happening to this forest. So it's almost certain that Ukraine is in this position to withstand for this level of shelling to even happen in the first place. Similarly, this whole forest strip is basically destroyed. This is just north of Klishivka. So basically, from this tip of the forest all the way over to around here is all gone. Similarly, this forest here is starting to get shredded. This forest, basically from here all the way to here, is gone. So this whole line here is gone, and this forest here, basically all the yellow area is gone. It's basically just down to mud. This forest strip here is gone. This one is gone. This one's gone. That one's gone. This whole strip is gone. That strip is gone. This whole forest strip is gone. So these are all almost certainly Ukrainian positions. Now, this particular forest strip getting shredded like this does not bode well for Russia. It it suggests that Ukraine has successfully moved down this forest and moved down this forest strip and got into the forest over here. So there's really kind of two ways to get there. It's kind of like this way and that way. So that seems to be what happened here. Ukraine has declared that they control this entire forest, and they are fortifying it. This is their words. It seems like propaganda in one hand. I wouldn't take it as absolute truth that this is true, that they captured this whole forest and they're fortifying it. But the objective evidence that this forest is getting absolutely shredded is pretty good evidence that it could very likely be true. Now, I want to show you just what this looks like. This is going to take forever to load, I'm sorry. But I do want to show what these forests look like. This website is just really slow. But we'll just...
Interesting. It just occurred to me, for those of you who don't know, I live in Alberta, and just north of me there was a tornado this week, and I had sent Andrew a video of some of the aftermath of that, and it just occurred to me that the aftermath of that looks so much like a lot of the footage that we see after artillery strikes going through the forest. It's the same kind of destruction.
Yeah, I got an error while loading. Yeah, and yeah, it really is similar in destruction. Okay, so this is what I mean by this forest is being shredded. So if we, I can't, I'm afraid to load the prior day just because of how long. Oh, whatever, let's just go for it. YOLO.
All about YOLO today.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this in. We're just gonna go for it. It's gonna take forever to load, but it's gonna be fine. Okay. So this was what is this? Okay. So okay. This image on top right now was the 22nd, and the 22nd was how long ago? Um, 7,
Like 2 weeks.
so it was 12 days ago. So it was 12 days ago. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, was what it looks like then, and this is what it looked like 2 days ago. So this is a 10-day difference of this degree of shelling. So that's 10 days of a forest getting torn apart. Okay, now we can look here. So this is 10 days there of, and we can go further south. And so these forests are getting ripped apart by shelling. Like for example, look here where you can see it went from like a forest strip to basically nothing. Okay, so and here you see how much damage there is along this strip and along the strip and in the forest itself. Uh, so this is a lot of damage over the course of really not that long of a time. This is only 10 days where like this intersection in particular got absolutely demolished.
Demolished.
Yeah. So this is the type of shelling that we're talking about. Um, and like over here, this is kind of really this damage is not new here, but you can see just the scale of destruction of these this forest strip. Um, so yeah, that's kind of that, and we can kind of keep going.
So Klishivka, though, that is within range of a lot of Ukrainian artillery and presumably some other weapons they have,
Yeah,
or no?
basically everything Ukraine has can hit Klishivka. Like you could hit it with mortars. You could probably throw grenades at it at this point, honestly. But you can hit it with mortars, artillery. Everything can hit Klishivka. So anything Ukraine wants to shoot at it, they can shoot at it. There's no limit in that sense. It's just whether they feel like it. Uh, so so yeah. So um, getting down to Kurdyamivka, we can see that Ukraine has very likely controlled this this side of the canal. This what would this be? Uh, the left of the canal. I think is that the right way to describe it? Anyway, they control the northern part of the canal or the eastern part of the canal, whatever. They control this side of the canal. They've almost certainly crossed the canal. Is kind of my point. So you can see down here near Kurdyamivka, the damage here is very minor, but it's visible. It's visible, especially here, very close, because these houses are Kurdyamivka, so it's very you can see visible damage right here, and so you can see the trees begin to shred. Uh, Now, this image is from 2 days ago. We should get another image either tomorrow or the next day. So either Wednesday or Thursday, we get another image. I can't remember what day it is. I think it's Thursday. But we'll get another image of this area. And I fully expect that all of these trees will take even more damage by then. Because I believe this whole section here, I believe Ukraine has moved into here and it is under attack by Russia at the moment. So I expect a lot of these trees, a lot fewer trees here in the next image, assuming it's not cloudy.
Mm.
Yes. So yeah, people feel bad for the trees. I agree. Unfortunately, uh, the trees are our best source of information right now. It's kind of sad. So we're going to be talking about a lot of tree massacres, but if you see this explosion here, this could be a lot of things, but I believe it's an airstrike because Russia's been doing a lot of airstrikes in this area, and you can't really see bomb craters anywhere. And I think that is a bomb crater. These are probably Mikliks, which would be mine clearing line charges. Uh, so yeah, uh, similarly, there's fighting going on near Ozeryanivka, where Ukraine controls this little forest, and they're trying to cross the canal into Ozeryanivka. There's active fighting going on here. I don't know exactly where the front line is, but you can see that these towns are basically adjacent to the canal. So once you cross the canal, you're more or less in the town. So I'm not entirely sure where the fighting is. But You can pretty much say the fighting is in the town for both Ozerianivka and Kurdyamivka, just due to the fact of their proximity to the canal. Uh, so yeah, I'm gonna go back to the other map just because it loads faster until we need that map again. So yeah, I don't really have much news from um, this kind of Druzhba area and Shumi and Horlivka. Don't really have much news from any of these areas. Um, the one thing that I can say about Novokalinove, uh, I believe, and I haven't marked this way, just out of basically being conservative, uh, but I think that this forest strip, which doesn't exist anymore, by the way, but I believe this forest strip um, is neutral. I don't think Russia controls it anymore, but I've kept it under Russian control just because I'm afraid to change it, honestly. But yeah, this forest strip. There's a recent video that Ukraine posted of Russians trying to cross this field. They kind of ran to the end of this forest strip and tried to run across the field, and Ukraine caught them in the middle of the field with artillery, and they didn't have a good day. They tried to run into the forest strip, but then they realized there was no more trees. All that's left is this structure, which I believe is a train stop. It's like a slab of concrete. So they're like trying to hide around it, and it didn't go well for the Russians. It did not go well. But yeah, there's like literally no trees there anymore. Uh, but yeah, in Avdiivka, Russia is still trying to push north from Lapitna, but they have not been able to. And they're trying to push back into Pervomaisky, but they have not been able to. They've been basically they've been losing ground. Let's just put it that way. There's a video that came out. When was it? Yesterday. I think it was yesterday of a T62M or T62MV, whatever kind of tank it was. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between an M and an MV from like 2 pixels. But anyways, so the T62 was approximately here, and the crew jumped out. One of them stripped naked, and they're running this way, and they were machine gunned. So I decided, since they are running away naked and getting machine guns, that it was this area is no longer in Russian control, and I marked it as contested, because I don't think naked people getting machine gunned is a sign of control. Um, they're still fighting in Marinka. Move no particular changes. In Volodymyrivka, their Ukraine has been pushing. I think you would call them special forces. Maybe you call them recon. Not really sure what you want to call them, but they've been pushing forces down into this sort of area and clearing out the Russians. And some of these forces are American, and there was a video posted by the Americans here. What was that?
I
Say?
think that was me. I was,
Okay.
can you, sorry, my mic stopped working for a second and I was trying to get it to actually
Okay.
come back in.
Okay. That's fine. Anyways, so there was Americans. I honestly thought it was Constantine joined. That's why I was confused. But uh, but yeah, there's Americans fighting here, and there's videos of them on YouTube fighting there.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So yeah,
But I still don't understand why the guy was stripping naked. I can't,
um,
like a chemical thing or like
I
all of weird.
I think the most plausible explanation that I've heard is that he had hot oil spilled on him when he was getting out of the tank, or while he was in the tank.
That would make sense.
But other than hot oil or some hot liquid, like hydraulic fluid, maybe, I don't know. Other than that, I have no idea. But that's the most plausible explanation I've seen.
That's a good one.
So yeah, so they're Ukraine is pushing down here. Well, or Americans fighting for Ukraine, whatever. So yeah, I have no particular news of Volodar. Um, one really interesting thing that I've seen, I might just show this on the satellite because it might take a really long time to load. Where am I? I always get lost. Here I am. Okay, let's try this.
You can see things.
Yeah. Um, but this isn't the day I want to look at. I need a different day. I don't remember what day I need. Maybe it's the 30th? Okay, yeah. But anyway, you see there's fresh signs of fighting to the east of this tree line. So this tree line is getting heavily shelled. I believe these big holes, I believe are MLRS, like bigger MLRS, not grads, but bigger than grads. I'm not anyway. Maybe like in what's it called, an Uragan or a tornado or something like that. I think that's what those are. Maybe even a toss. I'm not anyway. Something bigger like an MLRS, but big MLRS, not just a grad. So and this might be a bomb from an airplane because it's even bigger. Anyways, but you can't really measure stuff when you have this bad of imagery. You can't measure it because the resolution is so bad. But anyways, the point is that there's fighting going on right here. This looks like it might be an aerial bomb of some sort, but there's fighting going on here, which is interesting because that location is like right here, basically. So there's fighting going on here. Ukraine is likely pushing east now, and this is Pavlivka, by the way, and Vuhledar. So it seems that they're pushing east towards Pavlivka. That's kind of the point. Now, moving on, I don't have any particular news on any of these locations. Oh well, Ukraine attacked Novodonetsk and apparently failed, or at least that's what the Russians say. I have not heard anyone other than Russians say this happened, and the Russians said the attack failed. I have not seen any objective evidence that Ukraine has attacked here. I've not heard any Ukrainian sources say they attacked here. Only the Russians said that they attacked, and they said the attack failed. So make of that what you will. Yesterday, there was a video of a Ukrainians hitting a Russian position with a drone, and this is actually a pretty interesting image because you can see all the little Russians like that guy. They're all sitting in their trench, and there's a guy. There's a guy. There's another guy. Anyway, so you can see them if you zoom in. Anyway, so this was interesting because I had this as a gray area before, and you see, I had the Russian control much further south, but this video shows that they were actually north, more north than I thought. So anyway, so that's that. There's apparently fighting today. Again, news from the Russians, not from any objective source or Ukrainians. But anyways, they said that Ukraine launched a large attack into Staromayorsky today and Ryazhany. But again, this is only coming from Russians. And now we're getting into the part that I actually wanted to talk about. I'm going to go back to the day I had it. Okay. So I looked through the satellite imagery of Perutny, and the imagery is super interesting. Now, I'm going to just open it in the actual satellite thing because it'll be easier. It's going to take a really long time to load because it's slow. And also I'm lost and I don't know where I am, which isn't helping. Okay, so also I'm on the wrong day, which isn't helping. Where am I? Oh, here I am. I found it. Okay, so this is Perutny. Now, I'm just going to start in the west and go around. So in the west, I'm going to, so this is the 22nd, and this is the second. So where it's slightly cloudy is the new image, and where it's clean is the old image. Okay, so you can see that, maybe not clearly, but you can see that there is fighting getting ever closer to Preutny in these two locations. It's admittedly difficult to see, but it is happening. Right here is more obvious. So if we kind of zoom in, which is going to be an error in a second, you'll see why. But see, there's much more signs of damage here. Now, who's making this damage? Who knows? I can't tell you who's making the damage and who's not making the damage. But the fact that this damage is occurring is interesting. So now, in these forest strips, you can also see damage, pretty intense damage, more intense than the other areas anyway. So you see these forests are getting shredded again. Now over in this location, again, this is much more subtle what it is happening. You can see signs of shelling in this corner. Now moving further south, this is going to take a while to load. So this is getting cloudier and harder to see, but you can see a rather large crater, which is likely a big weapon. Not entirely sure what it is. Maybe a bomb. Who knows? But this area is getting shelled, and there's a large bomb all of a sudden, or an MLRS, whatever it is. I'm not really sure what it is. But the point being is that all of this fighting is going on immediately around Preutny. Now, if I go here, so this is, I put all the eyeballs where these images are. So, for example, this is where that bomb crater was. You see, like that. You could zoom in if you wanted to, but anyways, that bomb crater or whatever it was is right there. So anyway, so that's where that was, and this corner, these two, that little pond, and to the west. So these are all areas immediately around Preutny. Also, there's obviously it's too cloudy to see further out, but we know for a fact that Ukraine has taken this forest strip, and they claim Ukraine has been claiming for probably around 2 weeks now that they have moved within one field of Preutny. So within one field, I imagine, like I believe this forest strip right here was be within one field, don't you think? Maybe here would be within one field. Like over here would be within one field. So all of these shelling positions are within one farm field of Preutny.
Where's the road into Preutny?
For the Russians,
Yeah.
there's this road.
Okay.
There's that one.
It's the only exit right now, really.
Yeah, there's kind of this farm road.
Hmm.
I'm sure they have a road this way. I mean, I know they do because you can kind of see it in between the clouds here
Oh
somewhere.
yeah.
But yeah, they move that way too. So, but yeah, you can see this road is heavily used. They kind of made this one on their own, I guess, and they move along this tree line apparently. So those are kind of the main roads, I guess. But yeah, this is the main artery, I guess you would say, from Remivka, which is just south. So there are rumors that Ukraine has captured Preutny. This imagery doesn't confirm that at all, but it does make it seem plausible that they could have captured it. You like this isn't crazy. It's not like there are some situations where people I'm not saying the Ukrainian army, but Ukrainian people claim that Ukraine captures something, and then you could look at the image and you say like, there's no fighting, like there's no shelling, there's no tank tracks, like there's no signs of fighting at all, like there's like Ukraine obviously hasn't captured it, like there's that happens, like actually pretty often, but here there is signs of fighting like on 180 degrees around the town. So it is plausible that Ukraine could have captured it, or if not captured it, they're fighting over it actively, or at least they're fighting to get into it. Similarly, there's really heavy artillery shelling right at this lake, but this is a little bit different in that I know for a fact it's Ukrainian shelling. So this position, anyway, so Russia was using this road to move a lot of heavy equipment, and Ukraine was kind of just waiting for Russia to drive a vehicle through. And every time they had a vehicle through, Ukraine just blew it up. So there's like a graveyard of destroyed Russian stuff right there. There's a bunch of videos that Ukraine has posted of destroying vehicles in that area. They probably destroyed like 10, 15 vehicles. Um, so there's really heavy shelling here, and if I open it into another tab, you can sort of see it. It's really difficult to see because of how cloudy it is, but along this pond and here, there's really heavy shelling, and then it's Ukrainian shelling. I can guarantee it because there's videos of Ukraine doing it. Um, so yeah, uh, moving on. Um, uh, down. I have no particular news of anywhere south of Hulepole. There are rumors that Ukraine is going to try to capture Dorozhenyanka soon, but who knows? And the rumors more specifically say that Ukraine is going to push down here, which is I think a train. Yeah, it's a train. Anyway, they're going to push down this rail. Uh, that is the rumor. It's from basically Ukrainian mill bloggers. So that they really think Ukraine is going to push down this rail line, and in doing so capture Terezhinyanka and probably uh, Zernia and Myrna. So anyway, so they would push down, and the whole idea here would be to threaten Poloki, and this rail line appears to be one of the best ways that Ukraine can attack, just terrain wise, moving along the railway. But anyways, that's just kind of a military analysis, not necessarily fact or anything. So in Luhivska, uh, I had Ukrainian control kind of out to here, and I guess if I go back in time, you can see that I had it like out to here, and then I moved it back a little bit because it appears that that Russia went on a counterattack. It's possible Ukraine's been pushed back even further, but I don't have. I want actual evidence because I've seen evidence that Russia pushed here, but I've also seen evidence that Ukraine is still here. So anyway, so that's what I've done. In Novopokrovka, I've been kind of steadily moving my Russian control. Uh, as you can see, Russia isn't moving. So this doesn't represent Russia moving. It just represents my map being wrong, basically, and fixing it. So, anyways, um, and in Rabitna, I have no real news. Um, Wargonzo released a video today that is almost certainly from about a month ago. Um, and that video showed basically fighting along this line of trees. We know it's from about a month ago because this line of trees doesn't exist anymore. And the last time it was that lush was because it was both a sunny day and had lush trees. And the last time that happened was June 7th. So it's that video is unlikely to be filmed after June 7th, because after June 7th, actually, maybe it could have been like June 8th or something, or maybe June 9th. But anyways, after June 7th, from like the 10th onwards, it rained every single day, and it was very cloudy and stormy. So it's possible, like June 7th, 8th, 9th, maybe the 5th or the 6th is like that week is when that video was filmed. So it's quite old at this point. It's like a month old. And one final piece of information is that Ukraine is trying to attack west of Piatichatki, but humorously, I made a. I'm not going to call it an error because it's not really an error. Um, I made kind of a sarcastic joke that I forgot to tell everybody was a sarcastic joke because I marked this as a Ukrainian command center damaged by an FPV drone. I meant to put question mark, and then sarcasm because the Russians were posting this video everywhere that this was a Russian attack on a Ukrainian command center. But here's a few things. The video is filmed from the north, as you can see. You can see here that you can see that this rectangle is pointing up, right? But the rectangle points south, so it's filmed from the north. It's filmed from the north in Russian territory. So if it's filmed from the north in Russian territory, that means it's filmed by Ukrainians. It's a Ukrainian video. Ukrainians bombed a Russian position. I meant to mark this as sarcasm. But I should have, I was just in a weird mood. That's kind of the end of it. I either should have said it was sarcasm, or I should have marked it as a Ukrainian attack. But I did neither. And people today saw this on my map, even though I posted this 2 years ago. They saw this on my map today, and they decided that means that Ukraine captured this whole area, and that became a big story today. It never happened. Sorry. I'm sorry. My bad. I just made a sarcastic joke and forgot to tell people it was a sarcastic joke. I'm sorry. Uh,
Oops.
yeah. But yeah, so I don't know what else to talk about. Is that
Nothing
everything?
else of there anywhere?
Um, let's see if there are things I
Well,
forgot about.
West ish.
I can say that Russia is losing a tremendous amount of artillery around Bakhmut. You can see that they lost a SPG here, they lost a grad here, they lost another SPG, they lost another SPG, they lost another grad, another grad, uh, another grad, and there's even more grads. They're losing tons and tons of artillery around Bakhmut. It's notable how many pieces they're losing. They're losing multiple per day, like 4, 5, 6 per day, every day. I only mark a subset of them because I don't see them all. Okay, so they're losing more than I'm marking. Probably 2 or 3 times more, I would imagine.
And are they reinforcing that area as well?
Yeah, likely, but they don't have infinite artillery is kind of the issue, and in a lot of these cases, I imagine the crew are dying with the gun. Uh,
Bad.
Obviously, I don't know how often that happens, but it's not never. It's happened sometimes that they lose the crew. Similarly, they are losing artillery pieces in the south, but like for example, they lost a grad here. They lost a grad. They lost a Mista. SPG. They lost a rapier, which is a anti-tank towed gun. The rapier was kind of interestingly positioned right in Rybitna. So yeah, they're losing a lot of artillery pieces in the south and a lot around Bakhmut. And they also lost T-80 that I already talked about. But anyways, so they're losing a lot of artillery pieces. They're losing a lot of tanks too, and they're losing a lot of APCs. So Russia's taking a lot of casualties. A lot of casualties. Now, Ukraine is also taking casualties. Ukraine today, they lost a. Actually, when I say today, I just mean we learned about it today. It doesn't literally mean it happened today. But they lost a Strela, which is anti-aircraft piece. So it's actually a very important piece of technology that they lost today. They apparently lost equipment related to S-300 yesterday or the day before. So the Ukraine is also losing equipment. Some of it is incredibly important equipment. But Russia appears to be losing a lot more than Ukraine. The Antonovsky Bridge, there's not terribly much news around here. Russia dropped a rather large bomb today. It hit, just west of the bridge. Who knows if the bomb hit anything? I believe, just looking at the situation, I think they aimed it at this big building. I don't even know if this building existed prior to the bomb, because, there's been a lot of shelling going on. There's been bombs dropped already, and there was a giant flood. So I don't know if this building even existed when this happened. But yeah, they dropped a rather large bomb there. Other than that, Ukraine is reinforcing their positions along the Dachi and across the Dnipro. They're reinforcing their positions with more troops, and they're continuing the fight. Other than that, there's really no news. Okay, so yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. There's a really disgusting thing happened up there. You can go look at that in your own time. And Pervomaisky got hit by an Iskander missile today, which was pretty sad. Now, there were a few things that interested me about this. First, the Iskander, it appeared to hit a parking lot. Not the building itself, but it hit the parking lot. And this is a very accurate weapon, so it should hit what it's supposed to hit, probably, right? So it hit a parking lot. It blew up some cars. It wounded 12 people, at least from the time that I saw this. The number may have gone up. It wounded 12, including 5 children. A child and a woman were badly wounded. But yeah, this was it blew up in a parking lot. It's really interesting to me that you would shoot an Iskander, which is the reason you use an Iskander is because it's so accurate. To hit a parking lot, and not even the building. It's really weird. I mean, I'm glad it hit a parking lot. If it hit the building, it probably would have killed a bunch of people. Hitting the parking lot is a lot better for everybody, really. So, yeah, and we already talked about it, but Makivka had a Boom Jesus showed up today, and they apparently destroyed a really large ammo depot. Now, this ammo depot was unfortunately, I don't know for sure this was the location, but unfortunately, I think this was the location, but I'm not 100% sure. But unfortunately, the ammo depot was very close to a residential area, and this catastrophic explosion did a lot of damage to the residential area. including this hospital, I believe, which Russians have been, they wasted no time in posting propaganda about the hospital. So this was
It
a, what's that?
it ruined all the way up to like the hospital's a decent ways away, isn't it? Like that looks like maybe half a kilometer.
I don't know. Let's make a 1 kilometer circle and see what it looks like. Why not? Uh, I mean, again, I don't actually know if this is where it exploded. I just like if I were to put a certainty on this, I would say like 20% certain.
Okay.
So I'm not saying this is where it blew up. I'm just saying this is my best guess. So,
Got
but yeah, Russia posted videos tonight after the explosion of a hospital damaged. Now, I don't know which hospital was damaged. I don't know how it was damaged. I don't know anything. I'm just saying that they posted video of a damaged hospital and they blamed it on the Ukrainians.
gotcha.
It could be any hospital. It could be like a hospital over here somewhere. I have no idea. It could be damaged by something totally unrelated. I have no idea. But uh, anyways, that's all the info I have for today. This was the update. Uh, it's mostly just satellite info for the most part. That's kind of boring to talk about, but oh, Ukraine also blew up an ammo depot. Well, at least I'll just say a warehouse. They blew up a warehouse because what was in the warehouse is very controversial. Ukraine said it was an ammo depot, and Russia said it was healthcare supplies, like a hospital warehouse or something. But anyways, a warehouse exploded south of Melitopol in Yakimivka. So yeah, that's that. That's the update, everybody. I guess I'll be back on Friday.
Thanks for letting me tag along.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for
Uh,
listening, everybody. I cut you off again. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Thanks for coming, everybody. That was awesome. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
All right. So there's lots of fireworks outside. I'm gonna go look at them, and everybody have a nice day. And you can press the like button because it helps a lot actually. All right. So goodbye.